Hi everyone. In this video of CPE3 Programming Logic and Design, we will try to install Python on our computer and use Python to write codes. First, let us define Python. Python is a high-level, object-oriented, general-purpose, interactive, and interpreted programming language. When we say high-level, it means that a programming language is really easy to understand. It is readable due to its nature that it is really close to English language. Okay? So it also has a different approach like object oriented, and it is used for different applications as a general purpose programming language. So Python also is it is also an interpreted programming language wherein it doesn't use any compiler. It doesn't generate a let's say a machine code. Okay, so it runs the program line by line. So Python has been designed to be very readable. It has fewer syntactical structures than other languages and typically employs English keywords rather than punctuations. It's not like in Python, it's not like you have to use a lot of punctuations like for example is semicolons, but Python has a very strict implementation when it comes to indentation. Later on, you will know why I said that because Python really has it is a really good starting point when you want to learn programming languages. Okay, so you will know more about different coding conventions, and Python offers, let's say, a discipline in organizing your code. So here's how we install Python. So first we have to go to python.org, and then in python.org you will see a tab which has downloads. Okay, so you have to click the downloads, and then you could download Python 3.11.5 or 3.11.3. And then during installation you have to check the checkbox for adding the path to the environment variables. And then the end, in order for us to check if Python was successfully installed on our computer, you have to check the version using this command, python space -v. Now, let's try to install Python on our computer. So first, let's go to python.org, and then as you can see here, there's a tab which says downloads, and then at the lower corner or center of this page is the python.3.11.5. So you just need to click on this button, and then this window will pop up, and then you have to choose which location should it save the installer. So for now, I'm gonna choose desktop, and then uh, so make sure that you know or you memorize the path on where you save the installer. So I'm just gonna hit save, and then that's it. So once it's downloaded, you have to click it, and then as you can see here at the bottom part of this setup, you need to check the add python.exe to path. So the reason for that is because if you're going to run a Python file and then you didn't add it on the path, you have to locate the bin folder of Python and save your work on that folder in order to run it. So it's not recognized yet on the computer system. So this command will only work on the folder of Python. So let's say, for example, I want to save my work on a folder which is located on the desktop. So I cannot do that. I cannot run my code on that folder because python.exe is not included in the path, which is also broadcast in the whole computer system. Okay, so the point of this adding the python.exe to path is for you to use this Python interpreter to any folder that is saved on your computer. So if you want to run your code on a different folder other than Python, you have to add the python.exe to path. Okay? So after that, you have to click install. And then just wait for the installation to finish. I think it only takes a minute or two. Okay, so we're done with the installation. So once you see this message, setup was successful, so it's time to close it. And then you have to open the command prompt. So just hit the Windows button or logo and then just type cmd. And then it says here, it will suggest command prompt. So let's just open it. So you will see a very dark screen or window. So just type Python space dash capital V, and then once you hit enter, it should display the version of currently installed Python on your computer. Okay, so if it displays this version, it means that our Python interpreter is already recognized by our computer system. So that's the effect of adding the path to our computer, or adding the path of Python to our computer. So even if I'm at the folder Lenovo Y700, I could still check the version of Python. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. So identifiers in Python. A Python identifier is a name used to identify a variable, function, class, module, or other object. So it starts with a letter A to Z, or capital A to Z, or lowercase a to z, or an underscore, followed by 0 or more letters, underscores, and digits. So mostly, you'll see different names in Python. Let's say, for example, a variable. We declare a variable, let's say x sub 1 or x1 or x2, or let's say ABC if you want to name it ABC, or name or string. It doesn't have any, let's say, any violation on doing that, because Python allows us to create identifiers which is of this format. Okay, so it could be an alphanumeric, it could have an underscore. Okay, so that's an identifier in Python. So it could be a variable, a function, a class, or a module. Okay, it says here Python does not accept punctuation characters like at, dollar sign, and modulo or percentage in identifiers. Actually, this percentage has a different meaning. It means that it only gets the remainder of two integers. Okay, so when divided, we will get the remainder. So that's the meaning of this percentage. Python is a programming language that is case sensitive. Thus, in Python, Apple with capital letter A and Apple with lowercase a are two distinct identifiers. So this is one thing that you should always remember when declaring a variable, because sometimes uh, beginners always think that Python is not case sensitive. So let's say they declare a variable with capital letter A and then later on call it with an apple which has a lowercase a. So it only gives us an error saying that we didn't declare this variable. So you have to always remember that in Python it is case sensitive. Okay? Now, for naming conventions in Python, you have to use uppercase letters if you want to begin a class names. Actually, these naming conventions apply mostly in object-oriented. But for this video, we will just gonna use an approach which is the functional type of Python. So we have different types of approach in programming. Could either be functional, procedural, or let's say object-oriented. But for these examples, or let's say for the for my examples here in this video, I'm going to use a functional type of approach in Python. Okay, so it says here uppercase letters are used to begin class names, and then every other identifier begins with the lowercase letters. An identity that begins with a single leading underscore indicates that it is a private or it is private. Starting an identifier with two leading underscores indicates that it is highly private. So we will know more about this once we tackle the object-oriented version of Python or object-oriented approach in Python. Okay, which uses classes and objects. Here are the keywords in Python. So when we say keywords, these are the reserved words that cannot be used as constant, variable, or identifier names, and all Python keywords use only lowercase letters. Okay, actually I have included true or false here since you cannot use this as a name of a variable actually. So I still put it here just to give you some idea. Though it's not a keyword, however, um, it's also a good thing that in your earlier practice in coding, you should know already this. Okay, so we don't have to face any problems in the future. Okay, so as you can see here, there are a lot of keywords in Python, but as you progress in this course, definitely you don't have to remember all of this since most of the time you will be using some of them, and then maybe I think 60% of this will be used in our laboratory activities. Okay, so when we say reserved word, it means that these are the words that cannot be used as a name of a variable or even an identifier name. So it means that this keywords holds a special meaning and it cannot be used as a variable. So you cannot use not or n because it doesn't actually use as a variable. It has its own meaning. So we also do not use if or else since it is used to check conditions. Not is for uh, negating a condition. Import is used to include modules, and then there are so many things that you cannot use in as a keyword or as a variable when dealing with keywords. Okay, so it is also a good practice class to always check the keywords. Okay, so you may encounter a lot of errors when using this as a name of your variable. Okay, so it holds a special meaning, that's why it cannot be used as a normal variable. Okay, it has a purpose. Okay, so here's our first code. So it says here printing your first hello world in Python. Now let's try to open Visual Studio Code. Okay, so this is just a text editor. So I'm using text editors because it's really easy to navigate and also understand the code when you are writing it or when you are the one who is typing it. Okay, so I am suggesting or I'm encouraging everyone to use uh, text editor when coding in Python and avoid using IDE. Okay, like for example PyCharm or Anaconda. So we're not gonna use that. We're just gonna use text editor. So you may choose your text editor, like for example Notepad++, Sublime, or this one which I'm using, the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so let me create a new file and then save it. So I'm just gonna save this on our desktop. And then remember that the file extension for Python is .py. So it's here. Okay, so let's just replace this sample.py. Okay, then hit save. Okay, so now it says here in our presentation, in order for us to print hello world, we just need to type print and then inside the open and close parentheses, quote and quote, hello world. Okay? So always remember class that a function always have a open and close parentheses like print. Okay? So print, so this is the name of the function and then it has open and close parentheses in order to get its parameter. So the one inside or the words inside the open and close parentheses is called parameter. Okay, so our parameter here is the hello world. Now let's try it. So print open and close parenthesis, double quotation, and then hello world. Okay, so you don't have to put semicolon here if you're a programmer of other programming languages. So most of the time we end a instruction using a semicolon, but this time we don't do that in Python. Okay, so let's try to run it on our terminal. So as you can see here, I am currently using users and then Lenovo Y700 folder, and then my file is actually saved on the desktop. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is to change my directory by typing cd space and then the name of the folder where my file is located, which is on the desktop. So in order for us to uh, type it or go to desktop folder, we just need to type the first three letters of desktop and then hit tab. So that's a shortcut. And then once you hit enter, so it will change its current directory to desktop. Then after that, you just need to type the Python command. So Python space and then the name of your file, which is sample.py. Then once you hit enter, it would print hello world. Okay? So next, variables and constants in Python. So actually it's like in your high school days wherein you are assigning a value to a character or a letter. Say let x is equals to 1 to 3, let y is equals to 1 1 1. Okay, and then we use these variables in uh, we use operations in order to combine or let's say deduct or get the product of these variables. Okay, so whatever the value of these variables are, and then we use the operations, we will get an answer. Okay, so let's go. Let's try to declare variables. So x is equals to 1 2 3, and then y is equals to 1 1 1. Okay, so we have assigned x is equals to 1 2 3, and then y is 1 1 1. Then we have to print x plus y. So after that, we'll try to use Python command. Actually, you could just hit the up direction in order to uh, access the previously typed command. So just like what I'm doing right now, I'm just hitting the up arrow on our keyboard. Then just hit enter. So you'll see hello world and then 234. So 123 plus 111 is 234. Okay? Next. So user input in Python. So this is where we ask the user to input something. Okay? It says here x is equals to, and then we have here the input function. So this is also a function. So the reason why I know that this is a function is because it has open and close parentheses. Okay? Just like print. Print also have a an open and close parentheses. That's why it's a function. Okay? So we have an input function here, and then inside is we have a parameter text, which is enter a text to be displayed. So this one will be displayed before getting the user input. And then once the user entered an input, or let's say text, just like what is being prompt here, it will be assigned to our x variable. And then after that, we just need to print x. So let's try it. So here we have x is equals to input function, and then the prompt that you want to be displayed. So enter a text to be displayed. And then after that, we will just need to print x. So I'm just using up arrow. So once we hit enter, now as you can see here, the process is being halted by this input function. It actually waits for an event for you to enter text. An event for you to enter text. So for example, I type hi. Once I hit enter, it would print x. So whatever the value or whatever the text that you have typed on our enter text to be displayed, it will be assigned to x. And then once we print it, we print x, it would give us or return us hi. Okay? So next. Okay. So it says here, it's also a user input, but this time class, it actually converts the input into a number. So remember class that when we use input function, if you try to enter a number, it will be a of type text. Okay? So you cannot actually use a an operation, let's say for example minus or let's say multiplication to a string. Okay? So most of the time we use to lowercase to uppercase in order to convert them into uppercase or lowercase. But if you want to make your input into an integer or a number in order for us to add or to use some operations on it like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and any other types that you could do on an integer, you have to parse it. Okay, so when we say parse, it would read the content and convert it to another data type. Okay, so for example, let's just copy this, paste it. So I'm just gonna comment this one. So when we say comments, this code here doesn't have any effect on the output of the program. Okay, and now this one, we will just convert this into an integer. Okay, so let me minimize this part. Enter a number to be displayed, or enter a number. Enter a number, sorry about that. And then in X, we just need to add, for example, 1000. And then after that, we just need to run sample.py. So enter number. Let's say, for example, 450. So once we hit enter, so we added 1000 to it. So what will happen if I remove this int? So what will happen? Let's try this one. Let's say 450. So it says here that you can only concatenate string, not int, to a string. So you cannot add or you cannot do some operations like plus on a string and an int. So when we say string, it's just a normal text like this, which is enclosed in double quotation, just like this. This is the string already. So you're trying to add a number to a character. So it's just as simple as that. Okay. So if we enclose this 1000, so we treat this as a string. Okay. So this 1000 here is now a string. It's just a normal text. Okay. So if we do that, once we hit enter and hit 450, it would just connect this 1000 here as a string to our 450, which is also a string. Okay, so remember that if you didn't include or if do not include int into our input, the input of the user will be automatically entered as a string. Okay, so this 450 here is of type string. It's just a normal text, and then you cannot do any mathematical operations on that. Okay, now this 1000 here is also of type string. That's why our Python program just connect these two string. Okay, so 450 and 1000, it's connected to each other. It's just it only merges these two string. Okay, now if you put it as a number, so int, so we converted this into string or into an integer, and then also the 1000 is also an integer. Now we can do the operation for addition. Say 450, so it would give us 1450. So let's always remember that we can do different operations in int, and it has a different set of operations when it comes to string. Okay, so always remember that these two data types have different operations. Okay, so lines and indentation in Python. It says here that Python does not use brackets to mark code blocks for class and function definitions or flow control. So line indentation, which is strictly enforced, is used to designate code blocks. Then the number of spaces used for indentation varies, but all statements within a block must be indented the same amount. Okay, class, in Python, so we write codes, and then in some other languages, we group a block of code using brackets. But in Python, we group a block of code using indentation. Indentation of the same amount. Okay? So that indentation also includes 4 spaces. So that's the standard indentation, or let's say space from the leftmost corner of your text editor. So for example here, we have an if statement in Python that checks if a number is greater than 5, less than 5, or equal to 5. Okay, so let's try it. So let me copy this code. Okay, and then after that, we have to check if x is greater than 5. And then if yes, we have to print x is greater than 5. Now we have another one, which is elif. So this is the second option or second condition. So x is less than 5. We just need to print x is less than 5. And then the last one, so it doesn't actually check any condition. So if here, the if condition here is false, and then the second condition is also false, then we don't have any other choice but to go to else statement. So print x is x is equal to 5. Okay, so if x is not greater than 5 and not less than 5, well, definitely x is equal to 5. Okay, so let's try it. So enter a number, let's say for example 6. Now it says here that x is greater than 5. Now let's say 4. x is less than 5, and then if you entered 5, it says that x is equal to 5. Okay? Now we group a block of code using uh, equal amount of indentation. So for example, we have here print end of program. Print thank you for using it. So this is a group of code, this is a block of code. So this three print here belongs to if. So if this is true, this block of code will print one by one. Now if this if condition here is false, this three print will not print. Okay, and then going to, and it will go to elif and then uh, try to check the condition, and then if that's true, it would print. If not, there's no other choice but to go to else statement. Okay, so let's try it. Now enter a number. So I have to put a number that is greater than 5. So in order for us to test this, let's say 10. Okay, so it prints this three string. Okay, so it says here that the indentation should be of the same amount. Now what will happen if I tried to indent this line 11? So they are not of the same amount. So let's try if it still works. Okay, it says here that it is an indent or does not match any outer indentation level. So in order for us to make it work, we have to move it wherein it should also follow the other lines indentation. So just like this. Okay. Then once we run it again, then put a number greater than 5. So once we hit enter, it would display those three strings. Okay. So next. So we have different operators in Python. Let's say we have these two variables a and b, which is equal to 5 and b is equals to 3. So we could use addition, subtraction, multiplication, raise to, okay, a raised to b. A slash b means that it would divide a to b, it would divide a by b, and then a modulo b means that we will get the remainder of this 2, and then a double slash b means that it's a floor division. So for example, if a is equals to let's say 5 and then divides it by 3, so whatever the result, it would not round up the number. Okay, so let's try it. So let's add some variables here. Let's say a is equals to 5 and b is equals to 3. Okay. And then next instruction is print. So let me just type this one, copy it. So we have plus, minus, multiplication, division, double asterisk or raise to, modulo, and then we also have your double slash. Okay, so let's try it. So let's run this program, and then 6. Then as you can see here, we have 8, 2, 15, 1.666, 1, 2, 5, 2, and 1. So a plus b, so 5 plus 3 is 8, 5 minus 3 is 2, 5 times 3 is 15, and then 5 divided by 3 is this long decimal value. So you could actually format this. You just need to enclose it inside the round function, and then inside the open and close parenthesis, separate this a divided by b by a comma to the number of decimal places you want to display. Let's say, for example, 2. Okay? And then a raised to b, so 5 raised to 3 is 125. 5 divided by 3 is 2, so it means that this is the remainder. So for the case of, for example, 7 modulo 4, it would give us 3. Now for this one, 5 modulo 3 is 2. Then another one is the floor division, A floor division B. So we have here a 1.6666667 for division. Now it would just round it, or I mean divide it, and then ignore this decimal value. Not actually ignore, but it's like rounding down. Okay, though it is over than 5 or greater than 5, its decimal value. Okay, so usually we use round up, but for floor division, even if it's greater than 5, it will not round up, but rather round down. Okay, so that's why it's called floor division. Okay, so let's try this round here. So let's run it. Okay, so as you can see here, the effect of this line 23 round a slash b by 2 decimal places. Okay, so it only displays 2 decimal places. Okay, so next, so comparison operators. So it would check or compare two variables. If a is equals b, if a is not equal to b, if a is greater than b, if a is less than b, a is greater than or equal to b, or a is less than or equal to b. Okay, so let's try it. And then we have here not equal, and then we have greater than, and then also the less than. Greater than equal, and then less than equal. Now it would return as true or false. Okay, so comparison operators actually, it's like asking questions. Mostly it is used in conditions, in if statements or while or for loop statements. Okay, so it checks if a is equivalent to b, if a is not equal to b, if a is greater than b, less than b, greater than or equal to b, or less than or equal to b. Okay, so these questions here, or conditions or comparisons, can only be answered by either yes or no, or in programming, true or false. So for the case of a being 5 and b being 3, a is equal to b is actually false. Okay, so but let's try to run it. Okay, now a, which is 5, is equivalent to b, which is 3, so this is false. Now a is not equal to b, so 5 is not equal to 3, so this is true. A is greater than b, so 5 is greater than 3, so this is true. A, which is 5, is less than b, which is 3, so this is false. A is greater than or equal to b, so this is true, since a is greater than or equal to b. And then A is less than or equal to b, so this is false because 5 is greater than 3 and 5 is not equal to 3. Okay? Okay, so I think that is the end of our lecture or video. So I hope that you find it very easy. So if you have questions or clarifications, you could just leave a message on my messenger. So on Monday, this coming Monday, we will have an activity which is all about this Python installation and also some of the programming practices that we have discussed today. Okay, so get ready for our activity on Monday and see you. Goodbye, class.